Am I good? Well, that was quite impactful, I think we'd all agree. So my job is to ask a couple questions here. I was provided with a list of questions, and actually Pierre's just done an eloquent job answering them before I needed to ask them. So that was the easy part, and that was the gentle part of the Q&A. But, you know, again, I think we can all agree that was impressive delivery on what the issues are facing us and what the difference is between Conservatives and Liberals. The part that's missing is how do we make it happen? So one of the big things I think, Pierre, is that, you know, this time last year, I think we were ahead by about 20 points in the polls, and we seem to have squandered that lead to the finish line. I think Mark Carney almost took a lot of your speech and turned it into some of his, and more or less took a poser position that he would reduce carbon taxes, not quite, and push on resource development, not quite, and push for building nation-building projects. So I was wondering if you can sort of take the lead from there, that he's taken that, and what your transition from your past pitch is to what it is going forward today.
So to win the next election, we have to be the party of affordability. We have to be the party that promises that people will have affordable homes, affordable food, they can afford to start families and build a future here in this country. And that people can afford to have hope again. That's what's missing. We need to be the party that allows people to have hope that if they work hard, they can have a great life in this country. As for Mr. Carney, he hasn't honored any of these promises. This is why you have to vote for the real thing. You know, it's one thing for Liberals to plagiarize the Conservative platform 60 days before the election, but as we can see, 60 days after the election, they forget about all those promises. I mean, let's look at the promises. Let's go through them one by one. He said that we'd have the fastest growing economy in the G7. We have the fastest shrinking economy in the G7. He said he'd double home building. Home building is falling by 13%. He said that he would be judged by the prices at the grocery stores. Well, since he took office, grocery price inflation has been 40% higher in Canada than in the US, and we have 7% more people lined up at food banks. He said he'd negotiate a deal, negotiate a win with President Trump. And here we are, 8 months later, still no win, still no deal, still no elbows, still no jobs. And then finally, he said that he would spend less, and we see in the budget he's spending 100% more to our deficit. So Mark Carney is the most costly Prime Minister in Canadian history. His broken promises are costing Canadians. We, by contrast, are telling the same story. You'll notice that the policies that I advocated from that mic, they have not changed. I have not uttered one change in direction, because we know what this country needs. We need low taxes, balanced budgets, free enterprise, fast permits, and that is how we're going to unlock the promise of this country. Thank you.
So, yeah, great answer. If I could just dig in a little bit different, because again, you're right. You haven't wavered in your comments from the beginning, this time last year and previous to now. What is it going to take to win? It seems like we were caught a little bit flat-footed in the run-up to the election, particularly in some 93 ridings that by the time the writ was dropped, we didn't have members lined up for. Do you think that more local riding input could yield better selected and prepared local candidates? And is it a higher priority today going forward?
I think that's part of it. We obviously have to, I think we're going to nominate candidates earlier this time. I'll add to that, though, we got 2.5 million more votes in the last election than the prior one. We added 25 additional seats. We had the highest share of votes since 1988 and the biggest number of votes our party has ever received, campaigning on making the country more affordable and bringing change. So we have to make small gains on top of that already big gain, and then I think Canadians will elect an affordable government that will deliver an affordable life to the Canadian people.
Great answer. You're a great politician. Understanding that you as the leader are ultimately accountable for the election result, the CPC National Council is responsible for the terrible result, the changes to the CPC National Council. Can we expect, or what changes can we expect to see under your direction?
Well, the council is elected by the members, so they will be the ones that you will show up at the convention, you can elect a council. But our focus, we're going to be focusing relentlessly on affordability. That is our biggest priority, the cost of living. People cannot afford to live right now. After 10 years of inflationary spending, big, costly, expensive government, Canadian people are becoming increasingly clear on the point that we are the only party that will ever give them a chance to have a life that they can afford. And our strategy is very simple. We're going to focus on prosecuting the costly credit card agenda of the Liberals and providing a hopeful opportunity that people will be able to afford their lives under a future Conservative government.
Good. So younger and youth voters, you mentioned my granddaughter. That was prophetic that you knew I had a granddaughter. They're obviously an important demographic. And what is the strategy to attract more to the Conservative brand and encourage to participate, advocate, and lead and vote?
Well, that's actually another area of good news in that we won the youth vote this last election. And not only that, the Elections Canada held a mock election in the high schools across Canada, and Conservatives finished first. In other words, I don't know if that's ever happened before. And, you know, I think Churchill said, if you're not a conservative, if you're not a liberal at 20, you have no heart. If you're not a conservative at 50, you have no brain. I've never believed that to be true, but I was thrilled to see that the next tranche of eligible voters, many of whom will have gone from being too young to vote to old enough by the time the next election happens, could put Conservatives by a long shot as their preference. And I think it's very clear. The young people today are the hardest working and have sacrificed the most of any generation since the Second World War. I regularly meet youth who are, while they go to school, are holding down 2 or 3 jobs just to keep their head above water. They're not saving anything up for a mortgage. The idea of backpacking around Europe, which was a kind of luxury that prior generations could take for granted, that's not even on their radar because they can't afford anything. And we are the only party that is providing our young people with the hope that they can afford a home, have a great job, start a family, have kids. So our message for the youth, and I believe the reason why we will have a youth-led victory in the next election, is homes, jobs, and hope. Homes, jobs, and hope. And that's what's going to bring it home for us.
Well, all us young guys would agree with that.
Hey, you're youth, aren't you?
Yes,
Great.
I am. So that moves on to the octogenarians.
Youth used to be 30, but with inflation, it's 40.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I just made it. So we have a lot of octogenarians in the room today, like old Dennis O'Rourke in the back corner there, and his gang here today. Many who swung to the Liberals in their last minute of the election. What is your message to them to gain their support?
Well, the first thing is that a lot of our seniors are struggling to pay for their groceries. That they notice the food prices are rising faster than their pensions, and their fixed incomes make it impossible for them to have the life that they were promised. Unfortunately, many of them are stuck working longer in order to pay for the rising cost of living. Conservatives are the only party that are going to make life affordable for our seniors, but also you want your grandkids to do well. You want your grandkids to have the same opportunities that you have. And I would encourage every retired person who has grandkids to ask them how they're doing. Ask them how their lives are. Ask them how their rent is, whether they can afford to pay their bills. And you know, you might have been poking and prodding them to give you great grandkids. You might ask them the reason why they haven't been able to settle down and buy a home. Many of them do want to. I meet a lot of young people who say they want to get married to have kids, and they simply can't afford it. There would be no place to raise those kids. So these are things that we used to take for granted in Canada, but I think all of our grandparents need to reflect on the opportunities that this country supplied so many generations and make sure that your grandkids have those opportunities as well.
So, great answer. And so you're saying that there's a role that they have to get involved in shaping the youth and helping communicate the plan.
Well, in a lot of ways, what we need to do is the youth already have the message. They know what they want. They want to get out there and work hard and earn a great life. And I think the message is that they want to get the same promise from the country that retired Canadians had when they were young.
Okay, great answer. Unfortunately, it was a little long. Dennis fell asleep in the back there, so we'll have to sharpen that up, I guess.
We have a video we can show it to.
Play back later.
All right.
Again, maybe some more time on the pickleball court for you, and you can get that out there to him as well.
Are you going to give me pickleball lessons now?
Not me. No, but the old folks will. Message, again, just a lot of focus on sort of the next phase for you and the party to get us over the line. Obviously, the budget is an issue. Talked to Conrad Black. He wrote a nice article in the newspaper on the weekend about Carney squandering his opportunity post-election with this lame budget. You talked a lot about that. Specifically in voting against the budget, is there any actionable item that you can take out of that that's going to resonate and pick on that lapse of Mr. Carney?
When you say actionable item, you mean what in particular?
Well, what's the other than say voting against it? What actions can you take besides coming up and talking about presenting these problems? What we as a party can we take from that and push forward to get the message out?
Well, that's why I'm here today. To get the message out about it. I think we have to remind Canadians that Mr. Carney is spending your tomorrow on his today. These deficits will come with a very serious price. The Fitch, which is a ratings agency, has said that our debt is far higher than comparable countries that have AAA ratings. And so he is threatening our financial stability with monster deficits. He's threatening your cost of living. But the second part of that is we have to show as an alternative. And our alternative is clear. We're going to cut government waste, bureaucracy, consultants, foreign aid, handouts to phony refugees, corporate welfare, and other wasted money so that we can bring down the debt, taxes, and inflation, and Canadians can once again afford to live.
Okay. I had the pleasure to testify 2 weeks ago at a parliamentary hearing on critical minerals. Yeah. You had a nice, smart young lady, Miss Shannon Stubbs, MP Stubbs there. She was on the committee. She did a great job, by the way. And my major point when I was there testifying on behalf of the mining business was there, obviously, and you covered this off, that there was a need for the elimination of Bill C-69, C-48, et cetera, and keep the feds separate from the provincial jurisdictions. Can you elaborate on that position as far as the federal and provincial interrelation and, quite frankly, interference in that in terms of permitting process? You mentioned about the timeline, but what can we advocate to separate the federal influence over the provincial jurisdiction in minerals?
Well, I'm going to say it again. The federal government needs to do one thing to unlock our resources, and that is get out of the way. Get out of the way. We don't need a politician in a cape to fly around like a pretend superhero. We need liberal laws to be repealed, liberal taxes to be cut, so that our miners can dig mines, our pipeliners can build pipelines, our energy workers can do their jobs. We have the resources, we have trillions of dollars of private money that desires to build these projects. The only thing stopping it is the Liberal government's massive bureaucratic apparatus of high taxes and barriers. So if the federal government gets out of the way, we can get these things done. I like your idea of separating into who does what. The provinces should have exclusive control over permitting projects that are within one province, and the federal government has exclusive control over projects that travel between provinces. And this latter point is very good, because some people say, well, David Eby is going to oppose a pipeline from Alberta to the Pacific. And my answer to that is, who cares? He has no power to block an interprovincial pipeline. It is a federal responsibility. So Mark Carney will try to use David Eby as an excuse for not allowing a pipeline to go ahead. That is not an excuse. The Constitution is very clear on this point. The federal government has the power to go ahead even if the provincial government does not agree. And I'm going to be very clear. Mark Carney still hasn't stated his position on a pipeline to the Pacific. He still doesn't know what he thinks on the subject 8 months after taking the job. As Prime Minister, I would use my federal legal authority to rapidly permit a pipeline from Hardisty, Alberta to Prince Rupert or Kitimat so that we can move 1 million barrels of Western Canadian oil to 2.5 billion energy-hungry customers in Asia.
That's a great answer, and again, I think that was very well covered off in the committee. What would be the outcome from those committee hearings, and is there a role to kind of elevate the findings of the committee, because it was presented by people like myself from industry, or does this get buried? Is there an actionable item that can come out of that committee meeting? That there was a Liberal committee, obviously chairman, but Ms. Stubbs was quite eloquent in bringing some of the information to the forefront. But from that point on, where does it go from here? I mean, is there something we can do to highlight that?
Probably nowhere.
Okay, thanks. Thanks. I'll put in my expense account for the trip.
The definition of a committee in Ottawa is a group of people who by themselves can do nothing, but together they agree nothing can be done. Look, we already know what needs to happen. It's very simple. We just need to get the government out of the way so we can get things built. We have the resources, we have the workers, we have the investment dollars, we need the permits, and we need the taxes cut. So let's just get it done.
I like it. I just have one quick one, and this one came from a friend of yours, but crime and safety is one of the biggest financial and social impacts on communities. We heard about it earlier from you, again, across Canada. There seems to be a disconnect between the court system and public opinion, and that distance is widening. What would you do to narrow the gap to regain public confidence in our justice system?
Lock up the tiny group of criminals who do all of the crime. Kelowna's mayor revealed just the other day that 15 offenders had to be arrested 1,300 times in 1 year. In Vancouver, they had the same 40 offenders who were arrested 6,000 times in a year. So on average, you have one offender who's arrested literally 100 to 150 times a year, and those are just the times they got caught. So that means there are probably hundreds of others. There's a guy in Penticton whose name is Levi. Is anyone from Penticton here today? Do you know Levi?
We know.
He's more famous than I am, but this guy, apparently he does so much crime that when he's out of jail, the crime rate for all of Penticton goes up. I mean, one guy does enough crime to move the crime rate. The good news is we don't have a lot of criminals in Canada. The bad news is they're very, very prolific. They do a phenomenal amount of crime. So imagine if you just locked those guys up and you left them behind bars. That's why I propose a 3 strikes you're out law. 3 serious convictions and you're no longer ever again eligible for bail, parole, probation, or house arrest. It's jail, not bail.
Again, good answer, and I understand there's a neighbor of ours, Chief Clarence Louis, down the road there, has got a nice prison that's about 40% occupied, so 20% occupied. So there's lots of room.
There's room at the Hotel California.
You got her.
But the problem is, it is like the Hotel California. These guys check out, but they never really leave, right? They go back in again and again and again and again. So, but maybe there's a few. This small group of put in here in Kelowna, 15 criminals. You take them off the street, send them over to Chief Louis. He'll put them in the prison there, and all of a sudden you have 1,000 fewer crimes in Kelowna. Sound like an idea?
Let's make it happen. And I think last but not least, a tougher one, what are your thoughts and suggested path forward with the Cowichan decision and resetting the relations with First Nations in BC and Canada, legislative solutions over the courts?
Well, the federal government has to make a clear and decisive argument in the courts in favor of fee-simple property rights. If we do not have fee-simple property rights, our entire economy is going to collapse. So this ruling cannot stand, period. Your land is your land. When you buy a house, you own the land. It belongs to you. No one can take it away. And the federal government needs to fearlessly argue that before the courts, and the judges better realize the massive, irreparable damage that they will do not only to our economy, but to the future of this country if they undermine the very basic notion of private property rights of homeowners. So we will fight for homeowners and property rights now and forever.
Well, that's my list of questions. I don't know if where's the young fellows? Any more questions? Might as well take one from the floor.
There's right up here, and then there's a young lady at the back as well who was pretty quick.
Please, can you announce that this hotel is on Canadian soil?
It is on Canadian soil.
That's it?
There's a nice young lady. This young lady was very quick to have her hand up. We should give her a chance. Do you want to shout it out? Are you okay shouting it out?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Kelowna, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
My question is about your support economic stability in regards to temporary foreign worker. Is necessarily just to end it or to reform it? Because we support migrant workers, temporary home workers, farming, construction workers, healthcare providers, fast food. In the long term, what is your strategy to see the flow of the changes? Because it's going to take some time to make these changes and give this opportunity of transitioning, because as we have employers who hire temporary foreign workers heavily for the Okinaga and for farming and also in other sectors. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and great question. So, first of all, I think that the individual workers, we should honor them. They are very good people. I've met a lot of the temporary foreign workers. They themselves are wonderful, and they're hardworking, and they want the same thing as everyone else. The problem we have in Canada is that we have the worst youth employment numbers in 30 years. We have hundreds of thousands of unemployed young people who can't get starter jobs that would launch them into future careers. And at the same time, employers are using temporary foreign workers that drive down wages and drive out jobs for the youth who need them. So the conservative answer to that problem is that we're going to carve out the agriculture program so that farmers can continue to have their existing access to temporary foreign workers that will serve their farms and bring food through our entire system. The caregiver program will remain, but we intend to get rid of the temporary foreign worker program other than that. And the reason is that we need Canadian jobs to go to Canadian workers, and in particular Canadian youth.
Thanks, Pierre. I'll just finish up in closing, but thanks very much for your time.
All right.
Good work.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, what a great job. Good show. So it's safe to say, quoting a well-regarded American president of the past, the dogmas of the quiet past are inadequate for the stormy present. The occasion is piled high with difficulty, and we must rise to the occasion.